Hello, you beautiful persons. So, there's this random burlap sack sitting outside my door earlier with no return address, and considering I've been playing Kirby Dreamland 2 recently, this must be a sign. So, I thought in the theme of the video, I'd open it up and see what's inside with y'all. Man, I hate strings like this. They're always so hard to— this is not friendly! This is not friendly! Start the video! Start the video!
It's easy to see why Ford has had 5 Kraft single is made from 5 ounces of milk.
Friends are a hamster, a fish, and an owl in Kirby's Dreamland 2. If you ain't fighting on their side, well, man, I'd pity you.
Kirby Dreamland 2 is the 6th game in the Kirby franchise and the 3rd mainline Kirby game, releasing on March 21st, 1995 in Japan, almost 2 years to the day since the release of Adventure. The American release is actually lined up perfectly. Makes you wonder what those 2 extra days of production went towards. The game's been released 3 times, first for Kirby's Dream Collection, the 3DS Virtual Console, and most recently the Nintendo Switch Game Boy app. This is the first game in the series to be directed by Shinichi Shimomura, who before this primarily worked at designing levels for the games. It seems he did a pretty good job for his first time, since the game was a hit, selling more than 2 million copies worldwide. That's a lot for a Game Boy game, by the way. I mean, if it sold this well, it's gotta be good, so why don't we just go ahead and jump right into it. Once again, I'm going to be ranking the game based off these 5 categories, and vaguely splitting up the video to match these. Now let's go! I don't know if you've been following along with some of the previous games, but you'll never guess where the story is at. So let's read over this real quick. Kirby lives on the Rainbow Islands of Dreamland. The rainbows that connect these islands have been stolen by the evil Dark Matter. Dark Matter has taken control of King Dedede and wants to turn Dreamland into a dark world. With the help of 3 friends, Kirby sets out on his latest quest to save Dreamland. Okay, so we do have a pretty interesting story here. A lot of mystery is raised over who this mysterious Dark Matter is. Whoever they are, they have the ability to possess Dedede and the power to take over these Rainbow Islands that Kirby apparently lives on. I feel like Kirby living on the islands might be a translation error, but I don't know. Regardless, Kirby needs to collect these rainbows all throughout the islands. So Kirby sets off with these 3 friends to go and save the day. But who are these friends? Well, in my opinion, they're what make Kirby Dreamland 2 Kirby's Dreamland 2. When you think of Dreamland 2, you think of Ritkine and Ku. They'll have their own unique controls and uses, but what matters right now is how cute they are. Look at these guys, they're adorable. I'm particularly fond of the hamster. Where did Kirby get the friends, and why are they helping Kirby? Neither of these questions are answered, but who cares? They're great, I love these guys. The most we get as to why they're helping Kirby is they've been captured by different enemies, and Kirby frees them from these sacks. So maybe they're just paying off the debt? You also first find them on 3 separate islands, so maybe that explains where they come from. That's about all we got for the prologue though. Let's delve into the actual game and see what Kirby Dreamland 2 has to offer. Okay, so what I think is an opossum is now on the loose at the house, and I don't know where it is. You don't think it had rabies? Believe it or not, Kirby Dreamland 2 is very much a successor to the last 2 games, in terms of controls at least. The same old sucking mechanic and everything, but not everything from Adventure carried over, unfortunately. We lost the slide and the dash, which honestly sucks. The dash was great, I feel so slow now. It honestly bugs me a bit, but who knows, it could have been because of hardware limitations or something. We still have the double star projectile though. Hell yeah. Unfortunately, since the controls are basically the same, I still have some of the same issues. I still struggle with remembering to fly with the D-pad from time to time, and something that frustrated me a bit in previous games but really came to a head in this game was trying to go through doors. Maybe I'm just stupid, but so many times when I was trying to press up to go into a door, I instead would start flying, and it was getting on my nerves. This sucks, because there's way more doors in this game than the previous 2, which just enhanced the problem. Another issue that's come back is how much inline Kirby has. There's so much time between every action where you just can't do anything. Which is generally fine, but in more stressful situations, it becomes frustrating having to wait for Kirby to get done just spitting out air or to close their mouth. On the other end of the spectrum though, I did notice, or should I say didn't notice, was any lag. In the last 2 games, especially Adventure, lag was a major issue, constantly slowing down the game and it sucked. But here I never even noticed it, neither in the Super Game Boy or the Game Boy versions, it just runs really well. I'm glad they finally picked up on it being an issue and worked towards fixing it. Enough with controls, let's look at how the game actually plays. We, of course, have the standard Kirby gameplay, running around and sucking stuff up. You know, the usual at this point. But now we have something new, the animal friends. I talked about them like a minute ago, remember them? Believe it or not, they are more than just cute little guys. They're also a gameplay function. Rick is meant for ground travel, Koo flies quickly through the air, and Kind swims quickly through the water. Koo is objectively the best pick here. I mean, the amount of speed you get from him is just so good in every situation. Koo is also really fast on land, so even in more enclosed spaces, he's a safe bet. You'd think Kind would be the outlier here, since you only ever need him for specific situations. You know, water. And outside of the water, Kind is just not fun to control. But that's not the case. Since Kind exists, there are significantly more water areas throughout the game that he shines in, which both Koo and Rick aren't good in. That just leaves no! Rick literally only has one benefit in a very small amount of situations. That being he can't slip on ice. There are 4 ice levels in this game! Even then, Kirby can fly. It's not like slippery ice is that big of an issue. Speaking of flying, Rick can't fly. He can only jump once. It's a good thing you're cute. Moving on, you're typically able to find them after beating a mini-boss in these sacks. They'll fall down, and once you walk into them, you'll begin riding, or being carried, or whatever Kind does. They'll also add another set of hit points over your HP once you gain them, and when you run out, you'll lose the animal friends. Interestingly, if you already have the animal friends that come out of the sacks, you'll instead find Gooey. Don't know why they're here, but if you collect them, they'll heal you 1 hit point, so there's that, I guess. Anyways, if you want to stop using an animal friend, you can just press select to get rid of them, as long as you don't have any copy abilities. That's right, they're back, and for the first time on the Game Boy, cementing the fact that they are a feature that's here to stay, which is great news. We have a significantly lower number of them compared to Adventure though, only having 7. This is actually the lowest amount in the entire series. All of them are also returning from Adventure, being Burn, Cutter, Ice, Needle, Parasol, Stone, and Spark. There is also technically an 8th copy ability, but I don't want to talk about that yet, and I wouldn't really count it. They all function exactly the same as they did in Adventure, which would be a little disappointing if it wasn't for the animal friends. Every animal friend has a unique interaction depending on what ability you have at the time. For example, Rick with Stone will turn into a round rock that Kirby can roll on, or Koo with Parasol will do a sprint attack in midair, or Kind with Spark will launch light bulbs that explode. The best part of the copy abilities in Adventure to me was being able to get so many different abilities to experiment with, and I think they were able to replicate that here. Yeah, sure, there are less than were in Adventure, but since the animal friends all have different interactions, it's fun to see what each can do. I mean, if you think about it, it's basically multiplying the amount of abilities by 4, so that's like 28. Though, saying that, some of the abilities are just utterly useless, which I guess was also a problem with them in Adventure. Like, what do you want me to do with this? This is just worse Needle. And this is just Needle! If you think about it, a lot of the combinations are things that were already in Adventure, but now you need an animal friend in order to use them. Like Koo with Parasol basically being Tornado, or Rick with Burn basically being Fire. So on one hand, I think getting animal friends to obtain different powers is neat, and it does do some really cool things with the idea. On the other hand, a majority of these are useless or just abilities that already existed, but now you need to go through an extra step to obtain them. Nothing into the world or anything, just feels a little redundant. But it doesn't take away the joy of the animal friends. They're still super cute and fun to play around with. I generally prefer to ride them instead of going solo. Also, you still lose abilities after taking any damage, so that's fun. A little fun side note I wanted to bring up, originally Kirby wasn't going to have any animal friends at all, or at least that's what some concept art implies. It shows that they'd instead transform into, or write a bunch of different contraptions. We can probably assume that this would function similarly to the animal friends, different transformations having different effects on abilities. There's even a sprite for a mini-boss that was on the bottom left tank design, showing that they'd probably be obtained in a similar fashion. Now one last thing about the copy abilities, they nerfed their power. They were already pretty weak in Adventure, but now they're borderline useless. You're way better off just dropping your ability and using the star projectiles. The only real benefits I can find were 1 with abilities like Burn that give you invincibility, 2, projectiles basically freeze the boss every time they're hit, so if you have something that has really fast projectiles, like Rick's Fire or Kind's Light Bulb, the boss will struggle to get close to you. This is why Kind's Spark is the best combo in the game. But even then, it takes forever to chip a boss's health down, just doesn't feel rewarding to do. I feel dirty like I cheated. Okay, so I looked it up and opossums can't carry rabies, which is good news. Bad news is the power has gone out. I think it's in the walls chewing up wires. Oh god. Looking at the actual design of the game, it's very similar to the previous 2 games, especially for the early stages. A lot of the elements in the early levels are there to teach you how the game works, with simple enemies and things set up to show you controls. For example, this door that's under a platform you can fall through. It's clear you're meant to reach it, so it gives players a new chance to experiment. It's something that's a given to veteran Kirby players, but it's a nice little tutorial for those that are new at the game. You don't even get an animal friend until the second stage. So really the entire first world in this game is just a tutorial for players to experiment around with and learn how the game works, which I really like. In the first level, you'll also notice these stars here. These are what we in the business like to call a point star. They're scattered all throughout levels, and if you manage to collect 7 of them, they'll net you a 1-up. It's a nice little incentive to go out of your way to collect these guys for fun, but they're ultimately not super important. At the end of the level, we have the return and go game, rewarding you with a 1-up if you get to the top, with less meaningful rewards the further you go down. Looks like this little springboard is going to become a staple for the series, which I don't mind. I find this one particularly hard, but I think I'm just bad at goal games. Going through stage 3, you'll eventually get to this room. There's a weird object with a wall between you and it. Doesn't seem like you can reach it though, so I guess we'll ignore it for now. Probably not important. Beating stage 3 will open up a path to the boss, where we'll get to face Wispy once again. This time it seems like he's come down with some sort of illness though. Poor guy. Makes you think that this dark matter has not only disconnected the islands, but also corrupted the inhabitants within it. Might explain why Wispy is sick. Anyways, I don't feel bad for beating up a sick guy, so Wispy's pretty easy. Once you beat him, you get to do your iconic little victory dance. Then you'll fly off and the next island will reveal itself. I don't know if this means that we've restored the rainbows the dark matter stole, but whatever. But yeah, that's the gameplay loop. You're going to these islands and beating up bosses, pretty simple. You've got 7 different islands to deal with. Grassland, Big Forest, Ripplefield, Iceberg, Red Canyon, Cloudy Park, and Dark Castle. If you combine all the first letters, it spells out Gerberus. I don't think they hit anything with the names this time. Most importantly, the title cards! Woo! Yeah, baby, let's go! That's what I'm talking about! Love these guys! Yeah! I especially love them here as they give the animal friends so much personality. Instead of just being cute little guys, they're cute little guys with some spice. I love seeing them interact! Ugh! Anyways, this game is a lot longer than the first Kirby's Dreamland. That game only took around an hour or so, but this time I'd say it's closer to 2 hours. Just about half the amount of time it takes to beat Kirby's Adventure, which is amazing to have a game of this length on the Game Boy, especially since the first Kirby game on this console was so short. Most of this length comes from the later stages though. Grassland only has 3 stages, but by the time you get to Dark Castle you're dealing with 7 stages. It starts to go up progressively once you reach Iceberg. Unfortunately, the further you get into this game, I feel the levels decrease in quality and become significantly harder. So many rooms are just so long and monotonous, with repetitive obstacles that aren't fun to push through. For example, there's a series of pipes in Ripplefield with a Sir Slippy at the beginning of each of them. And that's all the room is. Pipes pushing you along as you're constantly having to kill Sir Slippies at the start of each set of pipes. And there's so many rooms that follow the same design philosophy, which isn't bad, it just isn't very fun or intuitive. So really, I just think a lot of rooms don't have a clear direction or purpose, and were instead added to be filler to pad out the game, which is kinda sad since there are a lot of rooms that do seem really well crafted and fun to go through. I think the most disappointing island because of this is Dark Castle. The whole gimmick of this island is every stage, besides the last, has a counterpart that is just a mirrored version. For example, stage 4 is just stage 1 backwards. Of course the enemies are changed throughout the levels, but the geometry of the level itself is the same. I think it's a really neat concept, but the only level that uses it is stage 6. In stage 3 there's this auto-scroller maze you go through that's really easy as it leads you along the right path. But going through it in stage 6 is a bit harder as you have to remember the path you follow in stage 3. This would be fine, but it relies heavily that players would pick up on the fact 4, 5, and 6 are weird versions of 1, 2, and 3. Considering levels 1 and 2 are normal all things considered, it's not super easy to pick up on their counterparts being mirrored when you visit them. I mean, I've heard plenty of people complain about level 6 in Dark Castle killing you without reason. Moving on from Dark Castle, I really wish they emphasized using the animal friends more. The only time I feel like an animal friend is utilized is Kind, because they just keep you cool anytime an area is big so you can fly through it, and Rick is just kinda there. The most they're utilized is during puzzles, anywhere else are just treated as an optional choice. Which makes sense as you don't always have them, but it just sucks a little because I feel like more could have been done with them. There's literally a room with an annoying airstream and they don't give you Q anywhere throughout the level, what the You know what else sucks? These guys, the propeller bombs! When you're just Kirby, they're perfectly neutral, they won't even move an inch. But as soon as you get an animal friend, they turn evil. And if they touch you, whichever animal friend you have instantly dies. That's right, one hit and they're gone. You can't kill them either! They're completely invincible if you have an animal friend. The only thing capable of killing them is ice. They're just Metroids. I think they're meant to counter the animal friends, but the way they executed the mechanic is just insanely unfair. Which I think is a very common theme I noticed. So many level elements are very ill-mannered towards the player. Things like enemies randomly running at you from off screen, going through doors that drop you into danger. This room you spawn in with a jumper chute being dropped on your head? The devs just tried so hard to make the game actively work against you. I think it might have been their way of counterbalancing how easy the game is, but this was not the right way to do that. Another thing that really sells this point, this is the first game in the series to have autoscrollers, and they are really difficult. You gotta be ready to go, no messing around. Fortunately, there aren't a ton, but when they do show up, it's a struggle to keep up with them. If you get stuck at any point, there's very little time to get out, just leaving a very small margin for error. On top of autoscrollers, they also messed around with vertical levels a lot here. Both other games had vertical levels, but I don't think they had nearly as many as Dreamland 2. They did something really interesting with it in Stage 5 of Red Canyon. If you don't know what I'm talking about, here you go. Overall, I don't think the level design is bad, just lacking direction and implementing ideas in the wrong way. A whole lot of monotonous rooms meant to lengthen the game's time, but mixed in with some aggression towards the player in an attempt to increase the game's difficulty. Of course, not every level is like this. There are some parts I thought were really fun and meshed well with the animal friends and certain copy abilities. But there's enough of the repetitive design to be noticeable and annoying. Moving on from levels, there are a lot of really fun and interesting bosses this time around too. I especially like Ice Dragon, look at them, they're so cute. Krako is also so itty bitty here, oh my goodness. And they reproduced? These little guys are adorable, I could just eat them up. Even some mini-bosses have some sick designs this time around. I really like the newly introduced Afridi and Wayu. Something really interesting about Wayu, this was his first and last appearance, only ever showing up in cameos. Kinda sucks, I love the design, would have been perfect for Ninja. Probably my favorite boss mechanically is in Ripple Field. It's this fish named Sweet Stuff that you fight under what? Sweet Stuff? Really? That's the name? Whatever. You fight them underwater, which makes it a lot harder if you don't bring Kind with you. A nice incentive to bring a specific animal friend along for a boss. If you don't, you'll be forced to launch these stars back at Sweet Stuff since Kirby can't inhale stuff underwater. A nice change of pace. I really wanted to point this out too because I love it. During the Mr. Shine and Mr. Bright fight in this game, they'll do this attack where you have to hide in the shadow of the other, and I think this is such a cool idea. A fun feature they added is when you go back to one of the islands after you beat a boss, they'll have their door replaced with this little star as opposed to the skull that was there before. This is because you get to play a little bonus game. It's a fun little challenge to try and collect 14 point stars while avoiding taking damage. If you take damage, you're out. If you miss a point star, you don't get a perfect score. I think those are super fun and cute. I love them. The only one I had trouble with perfecting was Mr. Shine and Mr. Bright. Their challenge was super difficult for some reason. There's just so much going on you have to pay attention to. Still fun though. These are also required for completion if you're looking for that. The only problem I really have with this is they get rid of being able to fight the boss again. So if you want to practice fighting a boss, you just have to restart the game all over again. Now with all that out of the way, we made it to the end of Dark Castle, where we get to fight DDD once again. Oh, what? You can't bring the animal friends with you? Whatever. You stay here, sweet prince. As stated in the story, DDD has indeed been taken over by dark matter. I mean, this man's just fully asleep the entire fight. This is one of the hardest DDD fights so far in my opinion. He's got his standard attack patterns, but every so often he'll get angry and start moving way faster and launching explosions that take up a lot of the screen. Definitely the most I've struggled with DDD. But it's very possible, and once you beat him, that's it? What? Where's dark matter? DDD just lies dead on the ground, and it cuts to the credits. Hardly any fanfare at all. This credit sequence also just seems depressing. It's a rainy day with some somber music, as Kirby, Rick, Kind, and Ku all walk through a field. These also aren't actual credits, it's just a list of all the enemies you've encountered throughout the game. Wait, who was that? The end? With a question mark? Okay guys, something tells me this isn't the end. There's gotta be something we missed. Let's rewind a bit and see. Oh my god, does she shut up? Oh, stop! That thing! I remember seeing a couple of these throughout the game, but not being able to reach them. Let's rack our brain here. All the blocks to get into this room are the same, except for those two at the bottom that look like clouds. Maybe you need the parasol ability to break the blocks? Because, you know, parasol blocks rain. Rain comes from cloud. It doesn't seem like Kirby can break it, though. Kirby only attacks horizontally, so they can't hit the blocks. What about Rick, though? He attacks upwards with the parasol. There we go! We made it inside and collected our first rainbow drop. These are optional collectibles found in every island throughout the game. I think these are the rainbows Dark Matter stole that was mentioned in the story. I think their addition as a collectible works really well. Just like the switches from Adventure, it creates an incentive to try and solve puzzles that the devs come up with. There are some really fun and creative puzzles too. My personal favorite was this one in Cloudy Park. You're forced to get the ice ability to progress through the stage, meaning you can't bring anything in to cheese your way through it. It's reassuring as it lets you know everything you need is already in the level. You just need to find it. And I love that. However, there is one rainbow drop that is absolutely god-awful. The Iceberg Rainbow Drop. So, I'm going to describe to you the steps I took and why it's so frustrating. So, to start off, when you go into stage 4 of Iceberg, you'll face a mini-boss to get an animal friend. Which one you get is random, any of the 3 can come out of this bag. I get Kind. The next stream you go through an auto-scroller with an annoying amount of enemies that run at you from the left side of the screen. Reminder, taking any damage makes you drop your ability. Die 3 times, manage to get Rick. I eventually get to the next room, make it through the kibble pit, go down this hole, leave the level. Should have known to be fair, you can literally see the spikes while climbing up the kibble pit. Die. Get back here with Q, go through Glunk Hell, go down this hole, find out you need Kind to progress. I leave to get Kind from Ripplefil to ensure I get him. Oh yeah, these blocks are set up to make it harder for Kind to progress, so thanks I guess. Make it back. There's a trap here that'll force you to get rid of Kind if you break these blocks, which I fortunately didn't fall for. Go down and notice you can't use Burn to break these blocks, so drop your ability. Go into the Rainbow Drop room. You need Burn. They even taunt you with the left side being made of normal blocks and having nothing but a Gordo. Look throughout the level, only place with Burn is in the beginning. Restart again! Lose Kind. Restart again. Go get Kind from stage 3 in Iceberg since it's closer. Make it back, drop the ability so you can suck up these blocks, but accidentally suck up the ability because apparently when you drop an ability in water, it stays right on top of you, so you just suck it back up and shoot it out thinking you got the block. Do it correctly, and finally get the rainbow drop! This one took me 23 minutes. The second longest one took me 5 minutes. This whole process is so unnecessary and stupid. Ugh! Why is the intended route to drop your ability in a place that quickly gets rid of your ability? It literally feels like you're cheesing it, but no, that's the intended route. Most of them aren't this bad. The only one I consider stupid is in Red Canyon, but still, this is so frustrating. Fortunately, if you get something in a stage, all the progress you've made is saved, so you can get a specific animal friend or a rainbow drop, leave, and it'll save everything you've got, which I think is really nice. While I do think most of the rainbow drops aren't that bad, the fact that you're required to get all of them to beat the game is a little annoying. Yes, you can quote-unquote beat the game without getting them, which is why I consider them optional, but what you get is basically a bad ending. I don't know, I feel like this is a very nuanced topic. I made a poll about it amongst my friends, and the majority said it doesn't count as beating the game if you get the bad ending. I mean, you didn't stop the primary antagonist from the story, the threat is still looming, all you did is reach the end. Even the credit sequence you get aren't real credits, it's just a collection of all the different enemies you've encountered. I guess it really comes down to what you consider beating a game. I personally do think that you don't need all the rainbow drops to beat the game, but I also think you're a coward if you don't get them. Once you do manage to get all the rainbow drops though, you'll need to go back and fight DDD. Instead of him just laying down on the ground, the rainbow drops will start to hover above Kirby and form the rainbow sword. This was the 8th ability I was talking about that I didn't want to count since you can only use it here, similar to the Star Rod. Also a little funny that this is the only game with a rainbow sword, yet it doesn't have full colors. You just gotta trust that it's rainbow. Then something will start to emerge out of DDD's body and fly into the sky. So, wielding the homosexual blade, Kirby flies into the sky to confront Dark Matter. Once up in the air, Dark Matter takes the form of a Dark Matter swordsman. One of the sickest designs in the series, look at this guy. They cook so hard, my god. This is a pretty difficult fight too. The way the sword works is once you press attack, Kirby does a slash and can't move at all while doing so. So it's pretty easy to get hit if you're just going straight up to Dark Matter and attacking. The easiest way to take them down is using these shadow balls they throw at you and reflecting them back, a good old game of tennis. Even then it takes a while to do, but it's not that bad. What does suck is the second phase. Once you beat Dark Matter Swordsman, it'll move towards the middle of the screen and shed its armor, revealing a black ball with a single eye in the center. Very scary. Dark Matter has way less health like this, but is so much harder to read. Their attacks are significantly quicker and more erratic, barely giving you any time to react to them. It sucks because if you do die, you have to start all the way back at phase 1, which takes forever to get through. Even worse, the fight is on a timer. If you fall back down to the planet, you'll just start taking damage, so you gotta be quick while being careful. It's super tricky and honestly a bit annoying. At least the song is a banger. But they do follow a specific order of attacks, and after learning it through trial and error, it is possible. Once you beat them, Dark Matter blows up. You see a shot of Rick, Kind, Ku, and DDD looking up at the sky, and seeing Kirby falling back down to Dreamland as the real credits start rolling. Once the credits are done, you see the creator's best attempt at creating a rainbow. I adore this ending sequence, it's so cute. Once that's over, that's basically all there is to the game. Oh, wait, what? I'm still missing 1%? But I thought I did everything. I got all the rainbow drops, beat all the boss bonus chances, beat dark matter. What else am I missing? Let me run through and see if I forgot anything. The hell is this? Oh, what? Who's this? Yeah, so every time you open an animal friend bag that would already have an animal you're currently riding, you'd normally get Gooey. However, there is a 12% chance that she'll come out of the bag instead of Gooey. Who is she? Well, we don't really know. The only time she's ever been given a name is in a Nintendo Power magazine, in which she's referred to as Girl Blob. Though, Nintendo Power has never been the most trustworthy source of info, especially since in the same article they call Gooey Blob. But it's all we got, so let's just roll with it. She just seems to be a female counterpart to Gooey, who's only ever showed up in this game and this game alone. Actually delving deeper into this, I'll reveal some really interesting stuff. Girl Blob doesn't appear in the Japanese version of Dreamland 2 at all. Instead, a girl named Chao does. Chao is from Yu Yuki, a Japanese game based off the Chinese novel Journey to the West. It was never localized, so the developers just replaced Chao with Girl Blob in every other version of the game. It's actually really interesting. Every instance of Girl Blob in this game is just Chao in the Japanese version. It's also just weird, like, why is there a woman here? What are we doing, guys? But yeah, collecting Girl Blob or Chao will net you the 1% you're missing for some reason. A little stupid since it's never explained, but it's not a super difficult thing to come across, so oh well. With that, everything's done. Always nice to see 100% on a save file. Just like in Adventure, once you reach 100% and click on the file, it'll show you a couple extras. First you got your sound test, lets you go through all the music, and oh my god, what? This is adorable! They're just sitting and taking a little drink while Gooey sings, this is so cute! Can we just add an extra point for this alone? Fine, whatever. If you're wondering, Girl Blob is also replaced with Chao here. Actually, this entire piece of art is from Yu Yuki. They just repurposed it to have Kirby characters. Huh. I don't care, I still love it. Next up we have Boss. It's a boss rush. You go through all the bosses without any breaks. I'm not really a fan of this since you don't get to choose any abilities or animal friends to go through the bosses with, but it's just bonus content, who cares. Lastly we have Bonus, which is just a collection of all the bonus games in a row. I think this one is really fun. I enjoy trying to get perfect on each of them in a row. For both Boss Rush and Bonus Game, you'll get some art if you manage to get through the entire thing, and I think they're really cute. I think that's about everything for the main game though, so let's take a look at some of the art and music. Great news, guys! The opossum attracted the attention of Avi, and they got into a very loud argument, which is a little scary from the dark, but I managed to get it back into this bag and got animal control to take care of them. However, I have started coughing up blood. The art in this game is actually really interesting, since there's technically 4 different versions of the game in terms of color. There's the Game Boy and the Game Boy Pocket versions, which are basically the same. Just one's green and the other is black and white. There's the Game Boy Color version that looks like this. They have different colors for the characters in the background to distinguish them from one another. Then there's also the Super Game Boy version, an add-on for the SNES that lets you play Game Boy games through it. This is more of a monochromatic scheme with one primary color present at a time. This also adds a little border to the game, and I think it's really cute. Don't know why they make Kirby's parasol blue here though, that bothers me. All the footage I've been showing is from the Super Game Boy version, which I think looks the nicest. Every area changes to a different color to show that, well, it's new. And the colors match the areas, like how Big Forest is green or Iceberg is light blue. You'll never guess what color they made Red Canyon. And the only other time the color changes is for mini-bosses or isolated rooms. Point is, I really like the monochromatic vibe each area has. It makes for a really unique style. Yeah, sure, the devs were just working with what they were given, but I think they made the most of it and it's really pretty to look at. Especially during the ending sequence. This uses all the colors they were able to use with the Super Game Boy, so even if it looks a little silly, you can't say they didn't try their best. I think the Game Boy Color version looks like... Okay, that might be an over-exaggeration, but it really doesn't look that pretty. The contrast between any entity in the background makes it easier to see them, I guess, but the game is so zoomed in, it's not like you're getting confused on what's going on. I think it's especially weird because of how it highlights specific parts during some bosses or cutscenes. I don't know, I just think it looks ugly. I'd rather play this in black and white over whatever this is. One thing that annoys me is every re-release of the game has been in either black and white or in the Game Boy Color version, which is just like, why? The Super Game Boy is clearly the prettiest version, that's just like objectively true. If you say the Game Boy Color is prettier than the Super Game Boy version, then you're either lying to me or are colorblind. So why are we gatekeeping the best looking version? Anyways. I do find it really funny that they decided to base the game around color, having the Rainbow Islands, Rainbow Drops, Rainbow Sword, all that sort of stuff on a Game Boy. Sure, they have access to color, but a very limited amount. I can respect the move though. It really makes me wish there was a DX version of Kirby Dreamland 2, especially seeing how they were able to make Link's Awakening look so lively and colorful in the DX version. There is actually a ROM hack of Kirby Dreamland 2 called Kirby Dreamland 2 DX that goes with that idea, and it looks really pretty. So many more elements just pop and I love it. Obviously it won't be a part of the review, but I thought I'd bring it up. As for the sprite work itself, I think it's all really pretty, which is expected at this point. A bit of a downgrade from the last two games, but I think due to the fact that one is a NES game, and the other is significantly smaller in comparison. Still, for a Game Boy game, I think the sprite work is beautiful, especially in the world maps. All the areas are just so well crafted. Some of the levels can be a little lackluster, but there are times where the artist definitely popped off. Hey, why is there a chick being tortured over here in Dark Castle? What's up with that? There's plenty of amazing sprites in this game besides tiling and backgrounds though. The map selection probably has my favorite sprite work. I love how silly the animal friends are on the warp stars, and I adore the little icons for each of the islands. Animal friends in general have so many different expressions. They really made them feel alive in this game with so much personality, and it makes me feel so happy. I love these guys so much! Gah! Not just the animal friends either, they made sure to give Kirby plenty of new expressions. My favorite has gotta be the title card for Iceberg, where Kirby's choosing between Rick or Kine, and ultimately picks Rick's until Be Warmer. Outside of the game, there's also a ton of artwork they made. So many different drawings of the animal friends, abilities, enemies, just a whole lot of art in general. You can really see the improvement in the artwork too. A lot of it looks a lot cleaner and more detailed than previous artworks. It's really nice to see. There is some concept art that was shared in Kirby's Dream Collection Special Edition booklet that I find really intriguing. First we see Kirby on one of those concept machines alongside the animal friends, which makes their purpose even more confusing. Maybe you were meant to ride the animal friends alongside the machines? We also see Acro, a boss that appears in Kirby Dreamland 3. I pointed it out earlier, but there's this random sign that says Orca with an Orca drawing, so it makes it seem like Acro was planned to appear in this game, but they weren't able to go through with it. This does make it seem like they had much bigger plans for Kirby Dreamland 2, but either because of hardware limitations or time limits, they weren't able to, which is sad to think about. Anyways, enough of my rambles about what could have been, let's get back on track. The music in this game is great! Shocking to hear that about a Kirby game, I know. There's just so many phenomenal tracks. I love how energetic and peppy Big Forest is. Or the more serious Dark Castle that is such a bop. Can't forget about the climatic Dark Matter theme. It's simple but a very invigorating song for your final duel. And Cloudy Park? Hello? My ears feel like they just reached a higher plane of existence. It's enough to move me to tears. They're just so good. But there is a major problem with the soundtrack, and it's these three! Each of the animal friends have their own unique themes, and every time you start writing one of them, all music is cut out and replaced with their respective theme. The only exceptions to this are boss themes and the map themes. Look, I love all three of their songs, but I just want to listen to other music from this game, please! It frustrates me so much every time I play, and it makes me sick of hearing their songs over and over again. A lot of the time I just opt out of using them so I can listen to the level's music. Even looking past that, while a lot of music in this game is genuinely amazing, there's also a whole lot of nothing tracks. Mostly the map themes, they're all just kinda meh. Outside of Red Canyon, this one was a bop, my lord. But this sucks since map themes are the few exceptions from the Animal Friends music. This, on top of having a couple returning themes as well. Red Canyon is just Yogurt Yard, and Ripplefield is just Float Island. So the music in this game isn't bad, just so much of it is overshadowed by the Animal Friends themes, and when it isn't, you're likely just hearing songs that are just okay. I'm gonna put up my favorites on the screen regardless, feel free to judge me. As for the sound effects, they're all really good, nothing that's too much or too little. A lot of returning sound effects, which makes sense. At this point, things like the 1-up or the door are just iconic. Unfortunately, we still have to deal with that old game issue of some sounds overlapping, so either our music channel will go mute to make room for it, or the sound effect just won't play at all. But it's just a product of the era. The only new one I can really remember is this sound effect. Love this one. Oh. Oh yeah, and the sound it makes when you kill one of these chicks, what the hell? That's so sad! Oh. It made a sad noise when it died. So bad for killing it. I don't like it, this game's messed up.
It's so nice.
And that's Kirby Dreamland 2. Overall, it simultaneously feels like a very messy package and a very well-crafted experience at the same time. There's just so much care put into so many little details, but at the same time, so many weird decisions all throughout the game. Things like losing the dash, the propeller enemies, Animal Friends music overtaking other songs, or just the monotonous level design. It all feels so dampening on an otherwise really fun experience. It'd be really cool to see a reimagining of this game because there's so much going for it. It could also give an opportunity for the developers to look back on their previous ideas and try to find a way to implement them with less restrictions. But I'm really glad I got to revisit the game. I played it for the first time in 2021 and remembered not liking it. I think that was mostly just because of the iceberg rainbow drop though. It brought some sort of primal rage out of me. I'm definitely more fond of this game now. I can see why so many people like it. But yeah, I think Kirby Dreamland 2 is a great game, but ultimately is a step back compared to the last two. Some really fun ideas, but nothing to really push the series forward. I think the only thing that sets the game apart is the introduction of the Animal Friends. While they're absolutely great additions to the series, they alone can't carry the game. Lastly, shout out to KirbyCart512 for joining my stream and teaching me a bunch of random trivia about this game. It helped me a lot with writing the script. And speaking of my Twitch, I do like stream there sometimes if you want to check it out. Just like throwing it out there. Just if you want to go look at it or anything, it's out there, Animal control called me and said the opossum had tuberculosis.